I just blew up this e-commerce brand from a measly 3x ROAS on a daily basis to over a 9x ROAS with one simple change in the ad strategy. And in this video, I want to explain to you exactly how I did it so you can implement something similar on your own e-commerce brand. Now, this is a brand under my Google Ads agency or remarketing, which we just recently began working with on the 1st of April. And I'm looking at the last 30 days at all of the campaigns right now. Essentially, what we did is once we came into the ad account, we just changed one approach, one specific strategy as to how they were running the campaigns, and that was enough to blow up this ROAS to levels which, frankly speaking, it has never seen before in the entirety of the ad account since it has been running. So this is very new realm in terms of the overall return on ad spend which this brand is seeing, which, frankly speaking, is just not used to. But before we go into that, a little bit more on the background of the brand. This is a brand which sells products related to the home, bedding, and kitchen industry. The average order value as a result of this brand is roughly $172. So if we look right here, on average, this brand runs at $172. And the biggest thing is the break-even return on ad spend for this brand is only a 1.72x. So in total, since the beginning of this brand, it actually has been pretty profitable. But what the brand owner didn't realize is just making things more efficient, just improving the ad strategy could literally take that profitability and take it to a whole new level where now we can actually scale much more aggressively just because we're seeing numbers like this. And ultimately, the main target ROAS for this brand is a 3x. So basically, this brand has been running at the target ROAS for a very long time. And because it has been profitable per se, there has nothing been done to change things up to improve the thing. So exactly how did we make it happen? Now, before we get into that, we need to understand what the strategy was previously. Before we actually started making changes on the 1st of April, right when this month began, essentially, the strategy for this brand was the following. It had multiple different campaigns running during this time, 4 major campaigns running. The first that was spending the most money was a surge campaign going after branded keywords, along with a little bit of cold traffic along with that. So that's why the overall ROAS has had a 2.76 as. The second one was a standard shopping campaign running on a smart bidding based approach. But the thing is, with this target ROAS right here, what this brand had done is it had set very high restrictions because the brand owner didn't know any better. And what they felt was if the restrictions were high in that situation, that would make it so the brand would not become unprofitable in any of the days. And for a long time, it did work. However, that's also one reason why the brand stagnated and could not grow in terms of the ROAS or the ad spend. And the third campaign right here, this was just basically a performance max campaign going after the different products that they were selling. So it was like a testing campaign, an all-in-one approach, as I like to call it, with a lot of different assets and a lot of different search themes, signals, etc. And then finally, the fourth major campaign which this brand had running was simply a branded campaign, just going after just branded keywords. So this first one also had some branded keywords, so there was a little bit of overlap going on. That was essentially the main strategy. Now, when I first began kind of optimizing this account, one thing I noticed was the current approach right here, it was leading to a lot of inefficiency. The standard shopping campaign was not really doing a very good job of spending majority of the budget in. Overall, there were way too many fluctuations here in terms of the sales, which let me know that the target ROAS values which this brand was running at, basically this target ROAS was not an ideal number for this brand because it was not able to consistently hit those numbers, which was a very bad thing for this brand. And the main goal here was to gain consistency. So instead of running this approach on a standard shopping based approach, essentially what we did is we completely shut out that standard shopping approach, that manual bidding approach, which even though it was running on a smart bidding based campaign strategy, standard shopping is still a little bit more restricted in terms of scaling with the data compared to a smart bidding based strategy like a performance max campaign. So that's why we had to switch on over to the PMax. And what we did is we changed that performance max campaign into something I call the full assets build, which means, as we saw here, there's only one asset group in here, but it has some of the highest performing images, creatives, etc., some of the most closely resembling search themes and audience signals as well. And we have essentially the major products within this PMax campaign, which is basically all of them, and that's because there's only 41 SKUs in here. We have the ability to just have one asset group running with all of the products within. And Second thing we did is we basically introduced a few more campaign tabs, just changing up the campaign strategy to make it around the PMAX campaign and supporting campaigns to the PMAX. So this third campaign is still a branded search campaign. However, as you can see, the bid strategy is learning because we essentially did a massive change to it and lowered the bids completely. So it's spending much less money, but it's generating the same amount of revenue or more. Third, we introduced a catch-all campaign that's standard shopping. Now, this is going to be running after a very high target ROAS restriction, but that's on purpose because we want to essentially get as many high-quality sales as possible from it. And then we kept the search campaign, the first one, running as it is, but we completely took out branded search keywords from there to make it go after cold traffic only. And then finally, the last campaign we added was a competitor search campaign. So that's essentially the new campaign strategy which we implemented here, a very simplistic 5-campaign approach, but which relies mostly on Performance Max and the search campaign for scale. And then everything else after, besides these 2 campaigns, is for supporting in terms of keywords, new audience pools, so on and so forth. So these 2 campaigns, the first ones, can perform at the best possible levels. But essentially changing it from that very basic standard approach to now a little bit more advanced approaches, all that took for this brand to not only triple in the ROAS, but also keep the conversion value almost the same. So if we look right here, past few days I was doing $800, $700 in revenue. After decreasing ad spend and increasing ROAS by 3x, the revenue is actually in the same level, and actually 1.1K yesterday, which is the highest day it has had since basically around 26th of March, since late last month when the month ended. So things are in the right track just with this simplistic change in the approach from more of a restriction-based standard shopping approach to now more smart bidding-based Performance Max approach with a little bit less restrictions and more room for the brand to grow with supporting campaigns. I recommend you try this approach if you don't want to just redo all of the main campaigns. At least add supporting campaigns so the main ones can perform a lot better. And if you need help with your brand when it comes to Google Ads, you already run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.